You got it locked to the Defected Radio Show. This is our house and our house music. House music, house music, house music, house music, house music.
Hey, this is Sam Divine, and you are locked into another very special edition of the Defected Radio Show, part 2 of our Defected 20 House Music All Lifelong Special. In celebration of 20 years of Defected Records, I'm here and continuing our conversation with Simon Dunmore in the house. Hello.
Watch you again, Sam.
Are you back for round 2?
I'm fighting fit and ready. Absolutely.
Well, everyone, I mean, from the tweets and from all the messages on Facebook and Instagram, they are absolutely loving your insight to 20 years. So let's go again then. For the next hour and a half, we're going to be continuing to look back over 20 years of the label, the records, the parties, and everything in between. So much to talk about and so much more absolute banging music to play you guys. Music on the way from Midland, CamelPhat, Oliver Dollar, Purple Disco Machine, and of course loads more. Now last time we started in 1999 where it all began, so this time let's pick up where we left off in 2012. A huge year for house music, wouldn't you agree, Simon?
I would never argue with you, Sam. Absolutely, it was an amazing year.
So let's talk about Noir and Haze around the Solomon Vox mix, which became what it is through an incredible remix. How important do you think remixing is to the label?
I think that remixing is really important within dance music, because a producer will make a record, it will appeal to a certain DJ who is then going to play it normally to a certain audience, and a remix can broaden out the appeal of a record. It can make a different type of DJ play it to a different type of audience. Every record performs differently, everyone reacts differently to a piece of music. That's why music's so amazing, and it's personal to everyone. And some records catch instantly, some take ages to build, some just actually don't get off first base, and some fly from the moment you put them out. And if you get it right, if you get it wonderfully right, like Noir did with Around, you know, the Solomon remix is probably arguably one of his best pieces of work.
Absolutely.
MK, you know, we got that absolutely right with commissioning him to do Storm Queen, you know. And there are other instances over the years, like the Armand Van Helden remix of Tori Amos, Professional Widow, which actually the original record didn't really do anything, but the remix went to #1. And so, you know, it's one of those things that if you get it right, it pays huge dividends.
Well, here it is then, Noir and Haze around the Solomon mix, and we're talking about 2012.
Defected.
Have you ever felt like you've been hurt before? By the ones that said they only loved you more? Inflicted pain and scars of sorrow, like an empty shell I wait for tomorrow. I said you're wondering why you walked away. Did I ever do you wrong in any way? Was it something I said to you that made you change? There is no more sun, there's only cloudy days.
Sorrow
way to open the show, and moving on to one of my favourites from that year, Flashmob with Need in Me. Now, I really want to know, how did this record come about?
Well, there's two schools of thought actually, and I discuss it on a regular basis with producers. Some people don't like to sample. They think it's taboo, and they're like, don't sample a record, you're going to get in trouble, etc. You know. But most of the great dance records, not most, but a fair few of the great dance records in time are sample records. They are music records that have been inspired by somebody else's creativity. Now, Flashmob have done a track. There is a sample. The vocal is a complete sample. I'm not going to say who it was. I mean, if you're informed, you probably know. But that is the vocal in that record is an amazing vocal, and they nailed the production. And it's the combo of both the fact that they saw something in that vocal, the sound bed that they put underneath it just complements it so well. They sent it to us. They'd had a couple of records out previously at the time, and so we were aware of them. We played it in the office, and again, it was just a record that we thought if we were going to play out that weekend, that was a record that we'd love to play, which normally is a good sign for a record to sign.
Here it is then, Flashmob, Need in Me.
You got it locked to the Defected Radio Show. This is our house and our house music. House music. House music. House music. House music. House music. House music.
Osunlade there with the Yoruba classic Envision, released on Defected in 2012. So Osunlade is someone Defected has worked with for a long time, and you've worked with him on his label Yoruba, and he still plays our parties today, right? What is so special about Yoruba?
I think that most labels need somebody that heads them, that gives the label the kind of personality and consistency that makes it ultimately connect with people. And Osunlade has run Yoruba for many years, and musically it's really diverse, but there's a real depth and a real spirituality to everything he does, whether he's DJing, whether he's releasing music, whether he's just being Osunlade in the day. I mean, he stayed at my house several times, and he walks in, he lays offerings and tokens to the gods that he worships in his bedroom, and we'll sit there and we'll have the most in-depth conversations about star signs and personalities and history, and he's just a really, for me,
powerful,
a really engaging, interesting, charismatic, kind of magnetic kind of person. And I think that his music and when he DJs, I think that comes across really, really strongly. And I think one of the things that I feel has enriched my life is the fact that I've been able to travel as a DJ and meet people from different cultures with different opinions. I mean, I remember the first time I went to Japan, and the culture there, it was a shock. And I'm talking 15 years ago, and literally I went on the subway in Japan, and everybody was on their phone, literally staring into their phone, and I'm like, what are these people doing? They're just, they were living their lives on the phone. Fast forward 15 years to my daughter, she lives her life on her phone. I'd never experienced anything like it before. All these cultural experiences have really, really affected me and enriched my life. And I think the extreme of that, or one of the extremes of that, is someone like Osunlade, who's just a unique personality and character and a wonderful human being.
So moving on to Candi, Staton and Hallelujah Anyway, Larse on the remix. Now another record from 2012. Cool, you signed a lot of big records in 2012, right?
Well, it's not me, is it? We are a team at Defected. We employ 35 people. The person actually that signed this record is a guy called Aaron Ross, and he came into the office and he was speaking to Candi Staton about working with some producers we had signed at the time, and he said, Candi Staton sent me this vocal, I think it's pretty cool, and he played the original, and it sounded a bit like a Robin S. Show Me Love type vibe. Really great record. And so we decided to do a remix, and we sent it to Larse, who had made a record with Noir called So Long, and we loved that record, and he sent us back this remix, and we played it, and it was just like, wow, it was just a completely, as a remix should be, a completely different vibe to the original. And I made a bet with myself, because it's so deep, and that I was going to play it at Pasha that Saturday night. It had no right to be played, that record, at that moment, and I just worked the set in a way so I could drop it. Reaction was amazing, and actually was a big record in Ibiza. Again, it's like a Balearic sounding record, just DJs that dare to be eclectic played that record, and to the extent that it actually became a dance floor hit.
So here we go then, Candi Staton, Hallelujah Anyway, the Larse remix.
Defected.
You have some problems, you need God to solve them. You get down on your knees and pray. When is he coming through? When will he answer you? Well, it may not be right away, but in the meantime, just keep your mind in a positive attitude. And while you're waiting, start praising. He is gonna see you through. Here's what you got to do. Praise him till your blessings come. Come on and praise him till your situation turns around. You gotta lift up your voice and say hallelujah. Anyway, hallelujah anyway. dancing. He's giving you the victory. Show him that you believe. Praise him till your blessings come. He's gonna see you through. Yeah. You gotta lift up your voice and lift up your hand. Lift up your voice. Shout for joy. Yeah. He's working it out for you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hallelujah. Yeah. Delight yourself in the Lord. He'll give you the desires of your heart. Rejoice in Him. Be glad in Him. Raise your hands. Yeah. Hallelujah. Yeah. Just say hallelujah anyway. Tears may be in your eyes. Yeah. Just say hallelujah anyway. He is working it out for you. He's working it out for you. Working it out for you. He's working it out for you. Working it out for you. He's working it out for you. Working it out for you. He's working it out for you.
Praise him till your blessings come down. Praise him till your situation turns around. You gotta lift up your voice and say hallelujah anyway.
Anyway.
Hallelujah anyway.
You got to praise Him. Just praise Him.
Inner City there with Future, Kenny Larkin on remix duties, another timeless record released on Defected. Now, you must have been pretty proud to work with a pioneer of techno. How did that record come about?
I remember it. I was sitting at home one night and just doing my emails on my laptop, and then in my inbox, Kevin Saunderson, and I'm like,
"Whoa, bro!"
Yeah, I'm like, well, that's interesting. So I stopped what I was doing. I opened it, and he just said, "I've made this record. I think it's great for Defected. What do you think?" And there was a link to 2 or 3 mixes, and I listened to the original, and it sounded pretty cool. I listened to the Kenny Larkin mix, which is so twisted, and he just holds the beat back for, I don't know, maybe 4.5 minutes before the kick comes back in. I just thought, this is just going to sound absolutely nuts in a club. So I went into the office the next day, called everybody and said, "You've got to listen to this record," and everybody was just freaked out. And it was Kevin Saunderson, and it's just like, I recently watched a documentary on BBC called Can You Feel It, and it had interviews with Wyan Atkins, Kevin Saunderson and Derek May. And when you're speaking to these people, sometimes you don't realise how influential and how they changed the world. I mean, literally, Detroit techno changed the world. House music in 1986, 87, 88 changed the world, and we're still reaping the benefits from what those innovators and musicians and DJs did all those years ago. The house music scene grows ever stronger, and I believe that's because it's the most social genre of music there is out there, and social media is so prevalent in our lives today. The fact that you've got a social genre of music and people connected in a way that they've never been connected before is just something which means that the scene is just exploding the world over.
Keeping things moving then on to 2013 with another amazing vocal record, FCL and It's You. Lady Lynn performed this at actually my first ever festival that I played at, We Are Festival, and it was an absolute moment. I remember I finished my set and I got back up on stage and everyone started cheering, but I didn't realise that Lady Lynn was behind me and she was setting up ready to play. I was like, yeah! But yeah, an incredible moment for me. And Deep House at that time was absolutely dominating the scene. What was your thoughts on it? And I remember when I first got sent, it was an a cappella.
So it got released on vinyl, literally just the a cappella.
Yep.
And DJs were running it over tracks. And I think at the time, Deep House was a reaction to EDM. Deep House was I think EDM was so formula and so bubblegum and generic that the house music wanted to press reset.
Yeah.
It wanted to start again, and its way of doing that was through techno and deep house. And so there was a lot of great records at the time, like Noir and Haze we just talked about, Flashmob, Needing Me, FCL, and all of those records came together to regroup the scene, as it were. So, and we were just grateful to be involved with a number of those records.
Here it is then, FCL, It's You.
You see the road I wanna follow. It takes a turn, it's hard to follow. I want your touch, I want your body. I feel the heat. Ooh, it's you. It's you I want tonight. The heat is on. I want you here tonight. It's you. It's you I want tonight. The heat is on. I want you here tonight. I feel the heat. 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 You see the road I wanna follow. You take a turn, it's hard to follow. I want your touch, I want your body. I feel the heat. Oh, it's you. It's you I want tonight. The heat is on. I want you here tonight. It's you. It's you I want tonight. The heat is on. I want you here tonight. I feel the heat. It's you. It's you I want tonight. The heat is on.
So 2013, also an important year because it was the first release of DFTD. Now, why start this sister label and how does that complement Defected? I mean, I know why from a DJ's point of view, but for the listeners.
We get so much music sent to us that it would be impossible to release all the records that we sign or like on Defected, so we needed a second outlet. Actually, Trevor Jackson, when he redesigned the Defected logo for our 15th anniversary, abbreviated Defected to DFTD within a logo. And I was like, that's really cool, but I'm not sure that would be a great sub-label because it references Defected, but it's a kind of smaller version. So it gave us the opportunity to maybe sign records from new up-and-coming producers, records that maybe weren't as big in potential, were more DJ-orientated records. I mean, Defected obviously releases a lot of vocal records. DFTD is more track-based, it's more tech house-based, and it just gave us an outlet for music like that. And it's great because we need to populate records on the radio show and compilations and introduce us to new DJs that work with them. A lot of DJs start on DFTD and then progress to records coming out on Defected.
And a classic example is the Robosonic Ferreck Dawn in Arms, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on, but you know, that's a classic example of that happening. That
record was originally going to come out on DFTD, but we mailed it and the reaction was so instant that we decided to release it on Defected. And we actually have a vocal record coming early next year. There's an 8-track remix which is really good, and we think that record has legs.
Well, it definitely has legs in my sets, that's for sure, but we're going to touch base on that a little bit later on. But here it is then. This was the first ever release on DFTD. This is Guti with Hope.
Studios to dance floors all over the globe.
Coming out of Oliver Dollar and Jimmy Jules, Pushing On, and we're now into the year of 2014. Such a big record. Another standout favourite of yours, Simon, I believe, Hercules and Love Affair, and Do You Feel the Same? Such an emotive and timeless record, and absolutely defies genre. Tell me how that record came about as a biggie.
Just the bass line at the intro, the bass line just got me. I mean, even before the song came in, I just was like, this is immense. And you know, we'd obviously, you know, Blind was such a massive record, the Frankie Knuckles remix, for everybody in the house scene, that, you know, Hercules and Love Affair, band of, you know, they really push boundaries, and all their videos, their art direction, the musicality of everything that they do. So it originally got released on a label called Moshi Moshi, and they put it out, and it really, they just didn't have the reach that I felt that the record deserved. So we ended up talking to them about agreeing to sign a record, and actually that year was the first year of Glitterbox, and I think that even though Do You Feel the Same came out on Defected, it would fit on Glitterbox. It would be a Glitterbox anthem for all the reasons about surrounding Hercules and Love Affair, the context of the song, and they're a great live band as well. That year in Ibiza, they played for us twice at Boom, and I think that they were the defining moments for Glitterbox at Boom in our first year.
So, Simon, I'm going to let you introduce this one.
This is the fabulous Hercules and Love Affair, and Do You Feel the Same?
Defected. The hardest lesson for me, through the pain, through it all, was love is not possession. I had to let you fall. I know you have your needs, but did you ever see the fact I felt the need for you? Was there a need for me? Tell me what you know. With time I'll let it go. And if I burn down the city, would you put out the flames? Or if it all ends in ashes, would you still say my name? Tell me, did you feel the same? Do you feel the same? Do you feel the same? The next time I get to heaven, I'll make sure I'm not there alone. Got so caught up in emotion, didn't realize you might be gone. You treat love so carelessly, don't think you'll ever see the fact I felt the need for you. Was there a need for me? Tell me what you know. With time I'll let it go. And if I burn down the city, would you put out the flame? Or if it all ends in ashes, could you still say my name? And if I burn down the city, would you put out the flame? Or if it all ends in ashes, could you still say my name? Tell me, did you feel the same? Do you feel the same? Do you feel the same? Did you
show. This is our house and our house music. House music, house music, house music, house music, house music.
Debbie Jacobs, Don't You Want My Love, originally released in 1979 and now re-released on Glitterbox. And talking of Glitterbox, 2015 was the first year Glitterbox had its record with Flush and Come Back Baby. Now, we've been talking about some of the highlights of Defected. What are the highlights of Glitterbox for you?
You know what? It was about 5 or 6 years ago. I just felt that house music was having a bit of a lull. We'd had all of the deep house records that we talked about with Noir and Haze and Inner City and Staton, but then there just seemed to be this moment there wasn't much going on. And sometimes you have to look backwards for your inspiration. So I just started to listen to the records that inspired me when I was growing up, where introduced me to dance music, that introduced me to house, and then realised that those records weren't being recognised, they weren't being played anymore. So we decided, actually I got asked by the guy that owned Boom. Defected was resident every Tuesday night there and we were smashing it, and he said, will you promote another night? And I said, look, I'm not going to promote another house night because that would affect Defected. going to maybe cannibalise what we're doing.
Yeah.
So I've got this idea. Let's do a night which celebrates dance music. You know, there's 30 years of great music. Back in the day, there used to be all of these kind of like characters that you'd go to the club and you'd know people in the audience because they were great dancers or they were a dork picker. There were real people associated with clubs. And nowadays, it just seems to be all about the DJs. So we come up with this concept, Glitterbox, which was about great music played by great DJs with real history, and then we populated it with these characters that really lifted the atmosphere, and it was really infectious. And what we noticed was that people that came, they didn't all dance facing the DJ. People were dancing facing each other. So it was just a very different experience to going to watch an EDM DJ where all the pyrotechnics and everything was front facing. People were definitely into the DJs at Glitterbox, but they were there because of the music and their love of the music. Yeah, the party had flamboyant attitude and a reputation for amazing music and moments.
And keeping on the subject of heritage music that you've just seemed to have nailed absolutely amazingly over the last 20 years, we now head back to 1987 with this one. Remixed by Purple Disco Machine in 2016 and reissued on 4th Floor. Fallout and The Morning After, Purple Disco Machine remix.
So again, through various business acquisitions, we acquired the 4th Floor label. It's a label that was owned and A&R'd by a guy called Tommy Musto, who's a very amazing producer actually, and one of the real pioneers of the house music scene out of New York. And it was Tino, Purple Disco Machine. We were talking to him about records that we owned, and we mentioned we own this record, and he said he'd love to remix that record. So he didn't really, if I'm honest, change it that much.
Yeah.
He just made it playable for sonically and acoustically playable for a contemporary dance floor, and it sounds amazing.
It bangs.
It bangs, as you say. So here it is. This is the Purple Disco Machine remix of Fallout, The Morning After, originally out on 4th Floor Records.
Sam Divine here with Simon Dunmore in the hot seat with this 90-minute special takeover celebrating 20 years of Defected. So let's talk about anthems then, and 2016. Here's a massive one. Lee Walker with A Freak Like Me. Now this one has an interesting story behind it. DJ Dion releasing the original on Dance Mania back in 1996. Can you run us through this? Now, my earliest memory of this track is Marco Carola playing it at Music On, and I just remember the next day my whole feed on Facebook was just videos of Marco Carola playing this, and then literally you guys picked it up. So how did this one come about?
Exactly that. We saw the videos online of Marco Carola playing it, and my guys jumped on it straight away. We contacted actually Wes Saunders, who is actually managing director of Defected, had previously worked with Lee Walker back in the day, so he got in touch and we managed to sign the record. But that actually, there's a number of things about this record which are interesting. One, it just showed how quickly a record can explode on social media by a DJ playing it and just a punter filming it and it being shared by so many people, and literally, yeah, as you say, gone viral. The second thing about it is it was the first record that we released which was streamed extensively. Previously we obviously sold records on physical format, CD and vinyl, and obviously then it went to downloads and primarily iTunes. This was the first release, and I think it's at probably about 80 to 100 million streams now. It's the first record that we experienced a volume of sales as we entered into the streaming era, and we're firmly in that era now.
Yeah, for sure. And also, notably, and as we've been talking about remixes, I mean, you got the Donna Dada of all Dons, Armand van Helden. How the hell did you get him?
It's funny, we've always wanted Armand to be to either pick up a record that he's made or for him to remix a record that we've signed, and we approached him to do Freak Like Me, and we were really, it was great that he said yes and he got involved. The amazing thing about that is it led to other things. So we then did Armand van Helden House Masters. I mean, his history and his the music he's been involved with, whether it be Professional Widow or You Don't Even Know Me or Witch Doctor. I mean, the guy is a hit machine. So to do the House Masters was great. Then he headlined for us last year at We Are Festival, and now because of that he played Glitterbox for us cut size, but he's also playing Croatia next year. Yeah. So again, it's just all about building bricks of awareness and creating that relationship between the producer and the music and the audience, and that just makes the proposition really stronger. I'm sure when he plays next year the reaction's going to be insane, and
that'll lead on to another hit single, no doubt. So we're talking, I've got Simon Dunmore here, and we're talking about the 20 years of Defected. What a journey it has been, and this leads on to another massive moment. We keep talking about moments on the show. This is on classic Midland Final Credits. Now, can you tell us about this record and how it was released? Because it's literally the track that just keeps on giving.
It's hard for me to talk about this record because, as I mentioned earlier, Classic is Luke Solomon's label, he A&Rs it, and he will probably tell you the reasons why he signed this record. But I'm just, it's a record that we supported extensively. It's an amazing record. Midland is a great producer, and Luke managed to persuade him to release it on Classic, and it's just obviously DJ Cozy sampled the same Gladys Knight record for his pickup record this summer, but I believe that the Cozy record is popular because Midland paved the way for him. And it was an amazing. I mean, Classic that year with Red Rackham, Wonky Disco, bassline banger. Enjoyed a real moment, as it is doing now. I mean, it's really got its act together. It's roster of artists with Honey Dijon, Ellie Escobar, Follamore,
Derek Carter, Horse Meets Disco,
and Luke. They are a discerning house music lovers label.
It's such a cool party as well. Such a cool party. Here it is then, Midland Final Credits, and we're still only on 2016.
gentlemen, with Sam Divine on the Defected Radio Show.
Make real tonight. Now the light has left the dark, I feel when I reach for him and he's not here. Many times have come when he is gone, yet I find the strength to carry on. But then I turn around and everything has changed. He will reach for me and lay his hands upon my face. But when I feel his touch, my love will overflow. He is real to me. Now I know he is the joy in my morning, in my evening, every day I feel the joy. When I'm lonely, something told me he's my guiding light. He is the joy. He is the joy. He is the joy. He is the joy. He takes the pain and the strife every day of my life. Yes, he does, every day of my life. He takes the pain and the strife every day of my life. Every day of my life. I can't explain about this love I feel, but I know it's real, so here's the deal. Sometimes I give up, I don't believe, and it breaks my heart so painfully. But then I turn around and everything has changed. He will reach for me and lay his hands upon my face. But when I feel his touch, my love will overflow. He is real to me. Now I know he is the joy in my morning, in my evening, every day. Now I feel the joy when I'm lonely. Something told me he's my guiding light. He is the joy. He is the joy. He is the joy. He takes the pain and the strife every day of my life. Yes, he does, every day of my life. He takes the pain and the strife every day of my life. Every day of my life.
This is an absolute sulfuric classic. This is Donna Allen and He Is the Joy.
And now we're on to 2017, the year Defected picked up Sulfuric's catalogue. What are you looking to do with Sulfuric in the future? I mean, this year we had the Croatia stage, new releases from Angelo Ferreri, who's one of my favourites, Matain Omic. What's your favourite Sulfuric track from the catalogue?
Tough question, but I mean, Sulfuric is one of those labels that I say has a special place in my record collection. Consistently great label over the years back in the day, and would probably still be there if Brian hadn't decided that he wanted to spend all of his time and energies investing in making Traxsource probably one of the most, well, the most prominent download site in for house music in the world. So, you know, my favourite Sulfuric record is a bit of a tough one. Probably Donna Allen, He Is the Joy.
Joan. So going from older now to new, Sonny Fodera. His album, I mean, is a full vocal album, and literally you released it in the impact of the saturated tech house world. How did you think that was going to go down? Because that was a pretty brave move to, you know, release a full vocal album when tech house was just on everyone's minds.
he made this album. It was very song based, and I felt that enabled him to really stand out amongst the crowd. Everybody had really gone to wanting to produce records that were very just very aimed at the dance floor and very aimed at working within a club environment. And of course, when you have a song, it can work outside of the club environment. It can work, when you're working out, when you're traveling to work on your headphones, when you're in a gym. It's just more universal. Whereas I think Tech House didn't really leave the dance floor very well. And I think that because Sonny released that record at that moment in time, he was just in a really unique position. I mean, you see that now. He's touring, he's doing great shows in the UK, and the kids are singing those records word for word back to him. And it's because nobody else had the chops or the desire or the enthusiasm to make records that contain songs, melodies, lyrics, which are really, really important to dance music, and sometimes that's forgotten.
Yeah, absolutely. So here it is then, Sonny Fodera, Always Gonna Be.
That's right. That's right.
Cause there's always gonna be something, always gonna be something standing in your way. Cause there's always gonna be something, always gonna be something standing in your way. Hey, we got lost sometimes, cause there's a world of excuses to regret life is useless. I said, hey, we got lost sometimes, cause there's a world of excuses. Your investment is useless. Cause there's always gonna be something, always gonna be something standing in your way. Cause there's always gonna be something, always gonna be something standing in your way.
That's right. That's right.
In my way, baby, in my way, baby, in my way, in my way, baby, in my way, baby, in my way,
That's right. That's right.
Got ready for the night in. She's heading for the lights, but she sees the vision going, cupping line after line. See how she looks like trouble, see how she dances and she sips the Coca-Cola. She can't tell the difference yet. That's what you're coming for, but they don't wanna let you in. And you drop your back to the floor and you're asking what's happening. It's getting late now, hey now, enough of the arguments. But she sips the Coca-Cola, she can't tell the difference yet. 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 That's what you're coming for, but they don't wanna let you in. You drop your back to the floor and you're asking what's happening. It's getting late now, hey now, enough tell the difference yet. That's what you're coming for, but they don't wanna let you in. You drop your back to the floor, you're asking what's happening. It's getting late now, hey now. Enough of the arguments. She sips the Coca-Cola, she can't tell the difference yet. Sips of Coca-Cola. She can't tell the difference, eh? She can't tell the difference,
Defected. Now, talking of a record that grew from a club weapon to a radio hit, world-renowned dance anthem, CamelPhat and the incredible single Cola from 2017. Now, let's talk about that record and how it landed at Defected. Man, that track was insanely big.
So, success, as they say, has many fathers, and there's a lot of discussion about who actually brought that record into Defected. But I believe that Wes Saunders heard the record first, who passed it to Andy Daniel, who ultimately signed the record. And it's just one of those records that grew. We had no idea. We just thought, this is a great record. I mean, we played it in the A&R meeting, and one listen, and I just said, yeah, we have to sign that record. But there's no way we imagined that record would be platinum in 6 countries, sell over the equivalent of 2 million downloads.
It's insane.
And it's a record that people have put it in their playlists, and so the streaming numbers, they keep clocking up, and it's just like, you see the power that a single has. Now, CamelPhat are selling out clubs all over the world. It's been an amazing record for CamelPhat. It's been an amazing record for Defected. So many people want to work with us because they see that we took a record from the underground and we self-released that record all over the world. And we retained the record's integrity. I mean, we never did any mixes that really compromised the record in any way. And as I said earlier in the show, every 2 or 3 years we need a record that comes along that just really gives us the profile that we need, deserve it, and CamelPhat did exactly that last year.
Smashed it. So moving on to 2018, this year, let's quickly touch on how this year has been for Defected. Which records stand out for you? I know a massive record for me, Robosonic and Ferreck Dawn in Arm. Was that a big record for you this year?
Yeah, no, absolutely it was, and I mean, I remember it getting an amazing reaction almost every week at Eden and at the Croatia Festival, and obviously Ferreck Dawn and Robosonic now, we are, they're playing our gigs. Robosonic is touring with you in Australia this February. Ferreck Dawn's playing for us extensively through the events next year. So, and that really is, we talked about agendas and whatever. The agenda is just putting out a record. Is interested in it's a good business, but a better business is to put out a record and then have the people play for you at events, and then put another record out and watch them grow in stature and confidence and following, and to the point where they're up there challenging with your MKs as headliners, exactly as CamelPhat are doing now. So you put the record out, the record achieves enormous success, and then they go on to have great careers. And we've been associated with a number of DJs DJs that have gone on to do really, really well in that front. And really, if you plot the history of Defected and you see who's popular on the dance floors in terms of DJs now, it probably makes for pretty good reading, actually. So in terms of the year and what we've got looking forward to, we've got great parties planned for New Year's Eve in London at Printworks, and New Year's Day in Manchester. And then obviously we're planning our Croatia Festival 2019. Tickets are going really well. We have one more phase to announce on the lineup, but the lineup's already pretty stacked. So I'm confident it's going to be great. And also we're about to announce our Ibiza lineup. We've already announced that we're going back to Eden on Sunday nights, and we really enjoyed being in San Antonio. It's a great place for us. The kids are there. Ibiza, we've all talked about the cost of clubbing in Ibiza and some of the emphasis that's on VIP. Neither of those are evident in San Antonio. It's all about young kids. They're on the dance floor, and because it's our 20th year and we're doing 20 parties, entrance is €20. And I don't believe that any club in Ibiza is allowing you entrance for €20. So the parties were amazing last year. So, and I think we'll be even stronger this year. So 2019 is looking really, really good. And I think that the thing that I would like to mention is that people make parties. You know, you can be a great DJ, you can play great records, but if you don't have the right crowd in front of you, then it just doesn't work. And we're really, really fortunate that the people come to our parties, they come to rave. The reaction that you get, you play a record that you think is pretty obscure, but because we've played it on the radio show once or twice,
massively,
you see people, they react, they're singing it back to you.
Like, how do you know the words to this?
And it just shows that the people that really follow us do so with passion.
They're invested, absolutely.
So and so I would, to finish off these two shows and our talk about our 20th year and house music all life long and everything, it's just to say a massive thank you to all of the people that support us by listening to our music, buying our music, playing our music, and just coming to party at our events and making us feel really good about what we do. Because when you're playing in front of 2,000 people and they're really reacting and you can see that they're hanging on where you're going to take them, it's a really, really amazing feeling. And for me to have a career that spans quite a long time, makes
he's smiling his head off again, guys. He's smiling his head off again.
So I'd just like to thank everybody. And we just recently did a tour in Australia. The reaction was incredible. I know you said the same about America, and we know we have fans pretty much everywhere these days, and everybody comes together in Croatia, which is why I love Croatia and bang on about Croatia so much, because people that make the effort to go all the way to party for 6 days from all over the world, when they get there they meet people that are so like-minded, and the chemistry is just like nothing else. And it's an amazing experience. So thank you everybody that supports what we do.
Defected Radio Show. This is our house and our house music. House music. House music. House music. House music.
We've come a long, long way together. Through the hard times and the good. I have to celebrate you, baby. I have to praise you like I should. We've come a long, long way together. Through the hard times and the good. I have to celebrate you, baby. I have to praise you like I should. We've come a long, long way together. Through the hard times and the good. I have to celebrate you, baby. I have to praise you like I should.
To the big man, Simon Dunmore, the heartbeat behind Defected, the guy who makes this all happen. So I'm going to round up the show really quickly now with Fatboy Slim, Praise You, the Purple Disco Machine remix. That has been a big one at the Glitterbox parties, right, Simon? I've seen loads of videos from that.
I mean, Fatboy Slim Praise You is a pretty big one everywhere in the world. But again, Purple Disco Machine, man with the touch at the moment, did this remix. It's to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Praise You, which dovetails really nicely into the Defected 20th anniversary. And one final thing before I go. You do an amazing job, Sam. Everybody comments on the radio show everywhere I go in the world, and it's a pleasure to absolutely work with you. So
thank you so much. Thank you. You're gonna make me cry. Simon's fun his head off. I'm going to cry my eyes out. What a way to end the show. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in and sharing your Defected memories with us. Absolutely amazing. And of course, a huge thank you to the man who made it once again all happen, Simon Dunmore. And finally, we want to wish everyone an incredible new year. Can't wait to see you all at Printworks and Victoria Warehouse. And again, we're back in Australia with Defected in February, and we've got a cheeky little US tour around April. So keep your eyes on all the Defected Records socials on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat and Facebook. And I'll see you guys back next week. Sam Divine and Simon Dunmore in the house. Peace. We're out.
Defected.